Hello! In this video I'm going to show you 3 different ways to wire up the Honeywell T4R receiver unit. This video will also cover the T3R because the wiring is the same but the 2 units are slightly different. If you have a different brand of wireless thermostat, then a lot of these receiver units wire up in the same way. So this video may also help you if you have a different brand of thermostat. Now in this video I wire up the receiver unit on the bench, but I've also made a video of where I had to replace an old faulty receiver unit which was wired into a combination boiler, and I'll replace it with the new Honeywell T3R receiver unit. I also made a video where I wire up the receiver unit into a wiring center where you have the boiler and you have a hot water tank and you have motorized valves. If you want to know more about the T3R or the T4R, then I've made separate videos all about these 2 programmers. Hopefully everything you'll need to know about them. I've also made a video comparing these 2 programmers, so if you're looking to buy one, then hopefully that will help you to pick out which one will suit you best. In the description below you will find links to all the programmers I have mentioned, along with links to all the videos. My name's Mark Ballard and I've been a gas registered engineer for over 20 years. The aim of my channel is to help you with your central heating and your plumbing. If you find my video helpful in any way, then please give me some feedback by clicking on that thumbs up. And of course that will help others to find this video. And of course if you enjoy my video you can click subscribe, and if you want to receive a notification the next time I upload a help video, then click on that bell. And of course share the video with your friends. I'd like to say a really big thank you to everybody who's bought me a cup of coffee and left a donation in my toolbox fund. It's really appreciated and it helped me to make more videos which will hopefully help you. Right, now let's get on with this video and show you wiring up a receiver. All the links throughout this video can be found in the description below, at the end of the video, or in the cards above. So here's the 2 receiver units. This is the T3R and this is the T4R. Now they both do the same thing. You undo these screws on the bottom here and then this hinges up. That's that one. And then this one here, undo the screw, and this one here hinges up also. And there we go. Now we have the 2 wiring back boxes. Now you can see on here we have a live, and another live, and a neutral and an earth. And you have exactly the same here. We've got a live, neutral and an earth. They're both 230 volts, as you can see there, 230 volts. So that connection there is exactly the same on both units. And then here we have our switch live here, which is A and B, and we have exactly the same one here, A and B. So the 2 switches are exactly the same. The only difference with the T4R is you have this connection here. So this connection here is for a completely different thermostat. It's open therm. So this is a special connection which would only run to a boiler with a special connection for open therm, and it's a different thermostat altogether. So you could ignore that one completely. That is for something completely different. So like I said, here's the live, neutral and earth. Then we have this extra live on the end. That's so we can run a link wire around to the A connection, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And we have the boiler switch connection here, and it also says on the top there 24 volts to 230 volts. So this thermostat, like most thermostats, this connection, it's just a switch. So it's something we call volt free, so there's no voltage in it. It just switches on and off. So here's the Honeywell T4R receiver unit, and as I showed you before, I'm going to undo that screw in the bottom here. Then we just fold the receiver unit back like that, and there's like a little hinge on the top there. You can see that just hinges on these little 2 hinges here. So it just goes in there and hinges backwards and forwards. And then be careful of these little pins here. Obviously they go into the holes there, and then that's what makes the connection. Now this is the expensive but clever bit, so be careful with that. So just going to put that to one side there. Now we have the wiring box here. Now as I said before, this is fairly straightforward. It's nicely laid out and nicely diagrammed to make it easier to install the wiring. I do have a more in-depth video on how to replace an existing receiver unit, and also how to wire into a wiring center where you have loft tanks and a hot water tank and mid-position valve. To watch that video, just click the link in the description below. Now as I said before, there's your 230 volts, so that's your main supply coming in, so you must always have live on this to make it work. Then we got the switch live here, and then we got the open therm connection. Obviously that's for a different thermostat altogether, so you can forget about that one completely. On the T4R receiver unit, they've tried to make it easier for you to wire it up by making this panel so it folds up. Now I found it quite hard to fold this panel back, and I didn't want to break it, but if you go to the back of the panel, you see there's a couple of clips here. And then we just give this a little push like that, and that one there also like that, and then that allows this to hinge out. So this is just so that you can wire the unit in a bit more easily. Just makes it easier to wire it up, because obviously if you've got this fixed to the wall, sometimes you're in a tight corner, you can't get to it very well. So this just is going to make it a little bit easier by folding it out. But then having said that, I never usually screw this to the wall. I always have this loose because it is much easier to be able to take it away, especially if you're in a tight corner or something, and you can wire it all up outside of the area where you need to fit it, and then put it in the tight space then, and then you don't have to worry about trying to get connections right. So that's the way I normally do it, but they try to make it a bit easier by putting that on there. Okay, don't forget when you do wire this, it's supposed to be a foot, or that's 300 millimeters away from any metal cases of the boiler or pipework. But having said that, I have fitted it closer because sometimes you just don't have a choice, and it has worked absolutely fine. So these Honeywell units are pretty good, but if you do want to try and get your best signal, then obviously follow the instructions, which says 300 millimeters, which is a foot. Okay, so I'm just going to wire this in now. You can see you've got the little wiring clamp here, so you can put the wires in the bottom here, and you can put them in the back there also. So you've got two options there. Now, if you have a receiver unit already fitted and you're going to take the old receiver unit off and you're going to put this one back in its place, get your smartphone and take a photo of the wiring, because you don't want to go messing this wiring up. If you get the wires wrong, there's a good chance you're going to blow the PCB on your boiler. And you don't want to be spending £200 on a new circuit board. Okay, so it is important you get this right. And if you're not sure, then call a professional. Okay, don't go doing this and blowing up your wiring or your boiler, because you're going to be very upset if you do that. And of course, you can't go calling me because I've told you not to do it. Okay, so anyway, let's get wiring this in. Now, as it shows here, we've got our live, neutral and earth fitting here. Obviously 230 volts, and that's a live connection which you would normally wire in with your boiler. So whenever you switch your boiler off, this unit goes off also. So that's the way that would normally be wired in. Now I have my 3-core flex here. The size of the flex you should be looking to use is 0.75 millimeters, which is the standard for central heating systems, protected by a 3 amp fuse. So I've already got a live here, I've got a neutral here, and I've got the earth just here. Now, when you come to do this, don't strip the wires back too far. I quite often take things apart like this, and there's great lengths of copper wire. You can end up having a fire or just shorting the thing out and causing all sorts of problems. So make sure you don't strip too much wire back, so that when you push the wire into the hole like that, you don't see any copper. You can see you can't see any copper there. That's the way you should see it. Now, I'm not sure if I like this, because it's kind of making my life a bit awkward. So I'm just going to snap this shut. Okay, there we go. And now I can just put that in there. And now it's not going to wiggle around now. There, that's better. All right, and there's a live wire in there. You can see there's no copper showing. I've got my neutral wire ready there. I'm going to put that one in. Exactly the same again. Do that screw up like that, and then finally we got the earth wire here, and that would just go into there like that, and we do that up there as well. Okay, now I've got my live, neutral and earth connected. You can see there's no bits of copper hanging out, so that's the way you should see it. You shouldn't see any copper showing here, because obviously that is not good practice and it's very dangerous. I wanted to show this photo of a receiver unit I came across. This is a great photo of what not to do. It's no wonder they were having problems. And here it is with all the wires sorted out. Okay, and now we need to just clamp this wire into position here like that. Okay, and then obviously then the wires aren't pulling. Okay, so here's our little clamp. You can see I've already fitted one clamp on this side here. Okay, but here's the clamp here. So just in case you didn't know, on these little clamps, they have different thicknesses for different thicknesses of wire. So you've got a fat bit here and a thin bit here. So you could put this either way up, and then you choose which way is the best for your thickness of wire. I'm just going to fit this and then show you what I mean. So I'm just going to put the screw in here, like that. I'm going to screw this up. And the same on that. It's not screwed up tight there. I wanted to show you is I've used the thin side here, and now you'll see they want to pull this. If there's any pulling on it, see the wires coming out, and obviously that isn't good. So I'm going to swap this around. So that's why you have these different thicknesses. I mean, you shouldn't have that much force on it, but obviously you do want to make sure that the wire is secure. And if you had a different thickness of plastic on the outside, it might slip out even easier. So I'm just going to turn this clamp around here. Okay, let's take that out of there, that one out of there. Like that. There we are, and then we just take that over, turn it over, and it goes the other way around. And now you can see that's nicely clamped here in there with that thicker side pushing down on the wire. Obviously don't do it too tight and crush the wire. So now we have live, neutral and earth. So now the unit is always powered up so it can operate. And now we need to put our switch wire in. Now like it shows it there, you got A and B, and this is what you call volt free. You got 24 volts, 230 volts, but that voltage is coming from the boiler. This unit here is literally just a switch, just joining these two wires together. So we're just going to wire these in so you can see where they would go. You'd put the live in on A. That's generally the way it always goes. Okay, like that. And then you would put your switch wire into B. Okay. And you can see that's pretty straightforward. Like that. And there we are. And then obviously we're just going to clamp that into the clamp there. I'm just going to push that in a little bit further because I can see a little bit of copper there. There we go. That's a little bit better. So I'm just going to undo the screw here now. Like that. Pop that wire into there. Like that. Do our screw back up again. Like this. And put our second screw in there. And there we go. So now we got our live, neutral and earth here, and we got a switch live coming in, and we got a switch wire going out, and that's it. So this is the way I'd wire it up if I was using low voltage, because I don't need an earth wire when you've got a low voltage like 24 volts. But if the boiler switch wire was running on 230 volts, then that flex also needs to have an earth wire in it to protect it just in case there was any faults in the flex. Now here's an example of this. I've already wired this up here, so you can see we've got 2 3-core flexes coming in. We still have our live, neutral and earth. Then we have the 3-core flex on a switch wire, and we got our brown wire coming in, which is then going to be the live coming in, and then the blue is then returning back to the boiler to switch the boiler on. And then to protect that flex, we've then got our earth wire, and it's just taken over and it's terminated with the other earth wire. And that's the way it should be wired up. Unfortunately, it's very rarely that I see it wired up in this way, but like I said, that is the way it should be done when you have 2 3-core flexes. Okay, just going back to the first way I wired it up. Now we've just got to screw this to the wall. But if you have screwed it to the wall, then it should be just a case of folding the panel down, doing up the clamps, and then fitting the receiver box. Hopefully you can see by not having the wiring box screwed to the wall, it can make it so much easier to fit the wires and do the clamps up. But obviously that does depend on how much access you've got. And then lastly, we just need to take the receiver box, fold it down, just be careful you get it the hinge part right correctly, and just fold that down like that. And then the screw does up, and that does up nice and easily straight into the unit. And it's a nice easy screw to do up. And there we go. That's the unit wired up and it's ready to go. Now method number 2 for wiring up the receiver units. Now I've seen these units wired up in all sorts of different ways, and as long as they're wired up safely, then hopefully you won't get any problems. In this method I quite often see, and it involves just having a little link wire, which is why we have that additional live connection here. Is you take a live connection from here, okay, so you put an extra little terminal in there like that, and then we do that screw up there. Okay, and this is just going to come a link wire, and I'll just show you this because this is one of the other most common ways I see this wired up. And then this wire goes across and goes into the incoming A connection, just here like that. So push that one into there, and then we do that screw up there. So now we have our live coming in. So you have 230 volts coming in here, and then we've got 230 volts coming back out. Then going into the A connection, so our switch wire to the boiler is now running on 230 volts. And this is another common way which I see this wired up. Then you just need one wire, which would then be your switch live, which will run back to the boiler. So the boiler would then have 230 volts to turn the boiler on. Then because that wire is running on 230 volts, it should have an earth wire also. So here I have some 3-core flex, and you can see we've got the brown wire, which will become the switch live wire. We then put that into the B terminal, like that, and do the screw up. We should then take the earth wire and put it in with the other earth wire. So now I'll undo that screw again. I'll then take the earth wire out, and then twist the two earth wires together, and then put it back in the terminal. If you are going to do this, you will find that these terminals are very small, and it is actually quite difficult to get 2 wires in there. You definitely wouldn't get 3 in them. So that's now the boiler switch wire protected with the earth wire, and it's terminated correctly. We now just need to clamp the wires in place like this. And again, we don't do these up too tight, just nip them up so the wires can't slip down through. Then we just nip up the second screw like that, and of course finally the last screw, just to hold it all in place, and that's already tight. If you do have a spare wire like this, then the correct thing to do is to then terminate it with a little terminal block like this. Then you just pop it on the wire, do the screw up, and then everything's correct and safe. So there we go. So now we have our live, neutral and earth. We have the live wire coming back round. Then we have our 230 volt switch live going back to the boiler. And then the flex is also protected by the earth wire. And then we've just isolated that final wire there with a terminal block. So that's another way to do it. Of course, when you finish, just put the cover on, fold it down and do the screw up again. So I want to show you this because if you are changing an old existing receiver unit, then you may come across this and wonder why I've not mentioned it. So here we have the flex coming in. We have the brown wire up to here in our live, so that's 230 volts. We have the neutral coming in also. And of course the earth wire is then missing because what people quite often do, they use this link here and they then use this earth wire as a switch wire. So then this earth wire will then be running on 230 volts, being the switch to the boiler. This method works absolutely fine. The only problem is that this flex here then doesn't have any earth protection, and of course that isn't correct in a safety point of view, but like I said, it works absolutely fine, and if you come across it, you just know what this means now when you see it. Now moving on to my preferred way of wiring up these receiver units. Now this is the third way to wire the unit up, and this is the way which I normally wire up these receiver units, is I use 5-core flex. So this is flex here, and then obviously we've got 5 wires inside it, 5 cores, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, so you can see we've got the live, obviously, we've got our neutral, and we've got our earth wire, and then that gives us our 2 wires for our switch wire. I then have a choice of whether I want to use the high voltage on the boiler, so the 230 volt, or maybe use a low voltage switch, which might just be 24 volts on some boilers. So if you use 5-core flex, you know which wires are going to be which, because you've got your live, neutral and earth, and then you've got your 2 switch wires. And of course the whole lot is then protected by the earth wire. So let's just wire this in. So you're going to wire up with the live first. And obviously the live goes into the live slot here, like that. We've then got our neutral, we've then got our earth wire, like that. We've then got our 2 switch wires. Now I will quite often use the grey as the live coming in, and depending how it's wired into the boiler, it could be 230 volts or it could be low voltage, or say just 24 volts. like that, and then you've got the switch wire to switch the boiler on, and that goes into our B connection like that. So now obviously we got our live, neutral and earth, and we got our switch wire coming in and our switch wire coming out to turn the boiler on and off. So don't forget, when you come to clamp this in, you've got two thicknesses to the clamp, and I'm going to use the thinner side now because this 5-core flex is much thicker. Now if you've got lots of spare wire here, don't go clamping the wires. That's not what you do. That is not good practice. Okay, we always clamp the sleeve for protection here on the outside here. So we've got lots of room inside here. You don't have to push on the side. You've got lots of room in the back there, so we can just poke all these wires down through the back there like that, and we can make them all nice and neat. Make sure nothing's been strained. And you can see that then fits in there lovely. And then we can just put the clamp, like I say, put the thin side down like that, and then we just fit our screws in like this. One there. The second one. Going to wiggle that down a little bit. You can see there's a much tighter clamp on here now with this thicker wire. There we can do that nice and tight. Not too tight that you crush the wire completely and you end up with the wires splitting on the inside. Just tight enough to hold it in place. Now I'm not going to do that screw up really tight. It's just there so I've got it in the future. And there we go. Now we got our live, neutral and earth coming in, and we got our switch wire with the wire coming in and then the switch wire going out. And that's it wired up. So that's how you wire up the T4R receiver unit or the T3R using a 5-core flex. And like I said before, if you do have a different receiver unit, then they all wire up in a similar way. They have a live, neutral and earth, and obviously a switch wire also. Right, that's about it then. So I do hope my video has been helpful to you. If you're looking to buy one of these programmers, like I said, all the links are in the description below, which will take you straight to all the programmers I have mentioned. If you want to watch my next video, then you can click on the link here. And of course, if you find this video helpful, then don't forget, click on that thumbs up, and that will also help others to find the video. You can click on subscribe if you enjoy my video. And of course, if you want to receive a notification the next time I upload a help video, then click on that bell. And of course, share the video with your friends. Don't forget, if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, then you can click on my toolbox fund, and that'd be really appreciated. Bye for now, and I'll see you next time.